Hi there, my name is Eli, and welcome back to my channel, Draculija. And I am in a rerooting mood, I'm in a customizing mood. So in today's video, I'm doing a double feature of Claudine Wolf and Toralei Stripe. I will be rerooting and customizing both of these dolls. They are from Buried Secrets Wave 2 Scaremester style. So they come with polypropylene hair, these unarticulated bodies, but all that being said, I still really do like them. I like their fashion. I love their screenings. I think their accessories are cute. Like, they've won me over. Okay, since my initial review where I might have been a little bit harsh on them, they really have won me over. So I want to upgrade them and just give them some higher quality hair and just make them feel, you know, a little bit more luxe. And I think I'll enjoy them a lot more once they've been customized a little bit. So that is the plan for today. Now, I'm not going to do anything like too crazy for these dolls. I know sometimes when it comes to my reroots, I can have like these very big, outlandish plans for the hair. Today, I'm going to keep it kind of simple, actually. I'm actually going to strip away some of the color, and for both of them, I want to remove their purple streaks. Normally, I'm a fan of like color and interest and things like that, but for whatever reason today, I'm just feeling something a little bit more simple. So for Claudine, I'm actually taking inspiration from Halle Bailey's live action Ariel, which is kind of obvious because she has little micro twists coming out of her center part, which just reminds me of Halle Bailey's Ariel. And I just kind of want to give her live action Ariel hair. So that is the plan. I have two browns that I will be blending for her. I have Penny Lane and Sierra Vista. This is Saran hair from the DollPlanet. And Penny Lane is more coppery. Sierra Vista is just kind of like a classic chocolate brown. And hopefully these two blended look gorgeous for Miss Claudine. I think it'll look good. And then for her locks, I actually have some doll locks from Dolly Hair. This is in the shade Papyrus, just kind of like a blonde shade. I'm gonna dye these brown, and I think it'll look really, really gorgeous. I've used these locks before for a custom reroot for Venus McFlytrap. That turned out really, really well. So I'm hopeful that Claudine will look gorgeous by the end of this. Now for Toralei, kind of similar to Claudine, very, very simple plan, okay? I like her orange hair. It's gorgeous. It's like a pumpkin orange. I'm a fan of it. I don't know if everyone's a fan of it, but like I'm a fan of it. And I have this orange hair right here. This is faded. This is, what is this? Sahara Sun. And I purchased this orange hair back when I was rerooting my custom like Pride Frankie where I needed like every color of the rainbow. So I have lots of leftover orange. I don't have enough though for like her entire head. This is like 1 ounce, and typically Monster High dolls you need like 2 ounces for a reroot. So I'm going to blend this with Georgia Peach. Hopefully these two blended will look nice. We'll see. And then I don't want to give her purple highlights. I'm just kind of over purple highlights on Toralei. She has purple in like every doll. Well, not her core doll, but like every doll after her core doll has had like purple in the hair. So we're going to do something a little bit different, and I want to give her some like blonde money pieces. So I'm going to mix, what is this? Lady Luck and just Peachy. And I think those will be really nice, like face framing money pieces for Toralei. It'll look different for her, but like you can kind of see the vision. Like I don't know if this hair color will look good with like a plum lip. I'm not really sure how to feel yet. So that is my plan for the hair. It's gonna take a while, so let's go ahead and get things started. Okay, the prep work here is very standard stuff for rerooting. You've seen it all before, but I'll go over it very quickly. So first, I'm prepping both dolls by cutting off all of their polypropylene hair as close to the scalp as possible. I do that for both Claudine and Toralei. This is a double feature, so you know I am doing things concurrently just because it saves me time rather than like doing Claudine and then doing Toralei separately. Like I'm doing them together. Okay, next step is I'm taking a flathead screwdriver, scraping out all of the plugs from inside the head and pulling it out with some pliers. You can see all the chunks of hair coming out. There is Claudine, she's all finished. And next up, Toralei, same process, scrape out the plugs, rip it out with some pliers, and the dolls are almost fully prepped. You can see here for Toralei too, she's got some pretty big chunks of hair inside her head. Okay, the last step that I like to do, that I've talked about before, is I like to take these dolls and submerge them in some boiling hot water just to tighten their plugs. Now here for especially Claudine, she needs it because her plugs were really enlarged from her rooting with like the micro twists. You know, the micro twists are a little bit thicker, so it just made her plugs very, very thick. So she definitely needed this, and there they are side by side. Okay, real quick update. I did some testing for their hair to see if I like it. Here is Claudine, and I did the brown. It's a custom color blend of those two browns I showed you earlier. It looks pretty. It's pretty simple. It's brown hair, but I do like the more coppery tone in it. I feel like it's really nice, gives it some interest. Yeah, it's pretty. But one thing I wanted to say about this Claudine, which is really bizarre, and I don't know why she's like this, but she has just such a weird rooting pattern. Like, okay, for her center part, I get it because she had those twists in there, and twists are a lot thicker. So of course, the rooting along her center part is going to be a lot thicker. But she has that same type of like thickness all throughout her head. You can kind of see, especially back here, her like rows of hair, they're a lot more like widely spaced compared to, say, like Toralei. Like, if you see them side by side, do you see what I'm talking about? I have no clue why Claudine is like this. I can only theorize that it has something to do with her having those micro twists, but like really I have no clue. So it just makes them very different to reroot. Like Toralei, when I'm sectioning out her plugs so far, they're a little bit thinner, you can see, because she has way more of them that are tightly spaced, versus Claudine right here, her plugs are a little bit more widely spaced. So I've been doing these a little bit thicker. Like this is right here, one plug that I did, just so it still feels like a full head of hair. So I'm kind of having to adjust with this Toralei, or this Claudine, I'm sorry, just because she's kind of throwing me for a loop a little bit, and I thought that was worth noting. And then for Toralei, here's her custom color blend that I have with the orange and peach tones. I love it, but I'm kind of feeling like I want to do something more exciting for her. So I might try to like transition from the orange up to like the blonde tones up here. I don't know, we'll see. I want to have fun with these two though, so I'm gonna now continue the rerooting. I'll show you some of those clips on how that works, and yeah, let's go. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how the color looks for Claudine and Toralei's hair, so I'm going to keep moving forward with this reroot. Now, these clips right here I'm showing you are actually the technique that I'm using to do my little custom color blends. I'm blending in smaller batches here, so I have these pretty thick chunks of hair. I'm going to match them end to end so I can blend them. I did feel like in this instance I didn't have enough of that copper tone, so I'm adding just a little bit more so it feels equal parts, you know, 1-to-1. So that's what I'm doing here for reference. And then I just fold the hair over itself and keep blending and brushing it out until I feel like it's a nice smooth color, and it looks like it's one brand new color that's somewhat in between the browns, somewhat in between the copper, like a new happy new color. So that's the idea with color blending, and this is a technique that I like to do every now and then. If you watched my previous customizing video where I did my Buried Secrets Cleo, I blended all of her hair in like one big batch in the very beginning, and that's another technique you can use. My only thing with that technique is that when you do that, at least for me, sometimes the hair shifts and becomes uneven, and if you're rooting the hair, you have like uneven plugs, which kind of bugs me, and then it creates more time for me in the long run because I'm trying to even out and fix those plugs. So doing it in these small batches instead for me sometimes honestly is easier, even though it does take more time. The other positive of doing like these small batches of color blending is that I'm only blending the exact amount of hair that I need for this project, so I'm not left with like a ton of leftover hair that's this brand new color blend that I might not need for a future project. So it's totally up to you. You don't even have to do a color blend. You can just reroot with one single color. But you know, it's me. I like to complicate things. Okay, enough rambling about the color blend. Now these are just clips of me actually rerooting Claudine. So I section out my plugs, wrap the hair around my finger, pick it up with my rerooting tool, and stick it into the head. And that is the process, rinse and repeat. Now I did mention this I think in an earlier clip, but this Claudine in particular has just a really weird like default rooting pattern. And my theory is because she had those like micro twists in her center part that like whatever needle or tool that they were rooting her with at the factory, it was a lot thicker of a gauge to accommodate for the thickness of the micro twists. And instead of, you know, switching out gauges for the doll, they just kept that same thick gauge for her entire head, which is why like all of her plugs feel kind of enlarged and extra thick. That's my theory. I don't like it. It did make for like a weird process for this reroot where, like I said, I was trying to overcompensate and like root thicker plugs so she wasn't bald by the end of this, because I felt like if I just rooted the standard plug size that I normally eyeball, that she would just not have enough hair on her head. So yeah, this one was definitely a bit of a weird one for sure. All things considered though, this reroot is relatively easy. It's just the same hair color for the entire head, which, you know, I like that. Flash forward here, I'm now showing you the center part. So I am adding, you know, the saran in the center part, and I'm gonna add locks as well. I'm adding both, you know, saran and locks. But as you can see, like her center part, I'm adding the hair, and you can see like it is not a lush full center part. Like she looks bald, you know, there's tons of scalp still exposed. And like I said, it's just because of the rooting pattern that they gave her to accommodate for those micro twists. But just trust the process. Root it as you normally would a center part. Even if it doesn't look full, it's okay. You're gonna add the locks in and the locks will give it that full look. So trust the process. It does look good in the end, even though in these clips, like I said, it looks a little rough. Okay, I finished doing Claudeen's center part all the way down with saran, and then it is time to prep her locks. So they are currently blonde. I need to dye them. So I'm going to add some dish soap and vinegar to this pot of boiling hot water. That's what it calls for in the directions, so I just follow the directions. And then I add some dark brown RIT dye. I just eyeball everything, you know? Yeah. I'm adding some tangerine orange, and then I'm also gonna add a little bit of coral. I should have added maybe like a pink color, but whatever. And then I give it a good rinse with my little chopstick right here, my little like stir tool. And also for, you know, context, this pot I'm using is my designated like project pot. Like I don't use this anymore for eating out of because it's been, you know, exposed to RIT dye and chemicals. So do be warned if you do plan on doing custom projects like this, that you have some special tools set aside and, you know, this is no longer food safe. Okay, I'm doing some test strands, testing it out, added some more brown because I didn't like the color. And now I feel like this color looks better. So I dunk my locks in there and I do a really quick dye. Like you see that was like, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. I then rinse it under some cold water and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit too brown. Like I want some more like gingery tones to it, right? So I go in and I create a new dye solution. I just add my like tangerine color and I do another test strand and I'm like, okay, this looks better. So now I'm gonna dunk my locks in this new dye solution. And I like this new color, but I take it out and I'm like, hold up, is this too orange? Like, does this not look right? So me being me, I'm like going back and forth. I add some more brown RIT dye to this solution. Just, you know, I feel like it needed to be a tinge more brown, okay? So add a little bit more brown, dunk it one more time, and finally I'm happy with the color. But that really is the process of like dyeing things. It really is just like back and forth, too brown, too orange, like tit for tat. Like it really is like that sometimes. Now I'm gonna let the locks dry, and once they're fully dry, we can now stick them into Claudeen's head. All right, and right here in this clip, I was trying to show you the difference between the needles that I'm using. I did swap out my rerooting tool for a larger gauge needle that can handle how thick these locks are. I did prep this needle, I'm pretty sure, in a previous video. My Monster Mysteries Claudine reroot, the one where she has a head full of micro braids and locks and things like this, they're just a little bit thicker and you need a thicker rerooting tool to accommodate. And it was a little bit difficult to make. I had to snip it with my like little snipping tool and it was really hard. So that's some context if you're wondering. If you just have one size needle for your rerooting projects and you want to use locks, you might need to find a way to upgrade and get a thicker, bigger needle. So FYI. Okay, but here's how I reroot the locks. I do kind of this twisting motion before I hook it and, you know, grab it with my rerooting tool, just so I can make sure that the lock is kind of extra taut and it minimizes snags essentially. I am a little bit type A when it comes to my like customizing. Like nowhere else in my life am I really type A except like dolls, funny enough. But I want the locks to be nice and clean, right? And these are really easy and prone to getting snagged. So when I'm picking up the lock and when I'm taking the tool out of the head, I'm just going really, really slow so I don't mess up the hair. Otherwise, it would just really, really bug me and I would probably pull it out and grab a fresh lock to work with. So that's just a me thing, but I think it's worth sharing. Last thing I will share in regards to rooting with these locks or like micro braids or anything like that is that I am sticking these locks into a plug that already has hair. I already previously rooted a saran center part. Now, was that center part very sparse and like near bald? Yes, but that was sort of the foundation for these locks to lay on top of. And because of that, when I stick my tool into the plug with the saran, sometimes I am met with a lot of resistance where like it feels like I'm pushing it in, but like it can't go any further. And it does feel scary when you feel that resistance because one, you don't want to break the tool, you don't want your needle to snap in half and have to create a new one, you don't want to mess up the hair. Like it's kind of scary, right? So my best advice is just take it slow. If you stick it in and you're having troubles, take it out, start over, reassess the situation, but do not fret. Like it is natural in this instance to feel some resistance, to feel like you can't push it in any further. And that's to be expected, so just take it slow. Okay, here you can see Claudine is finished. She looks gorge. All right, just some small finishing touches for the reroot. These really do make a big difference. So I add some Fabri-Tac glue instead of Claudine's head, take a little Q-tip and just swirl that glue around. Now, sometimes when I'm swirling that glue around with my Q-tip, I will snag a hair or two, which happened here, and I just cut that hair with some scissors so I don't pull it out. It happens, it's fine. Then I take some boiling hot water to set Claudine's hair. You need to set the hair. If you do a reroot, you need to set it with some boiling hot water. Even if it's nylon, it doesn't have to be like bubbling boiling hot, but like you need to do this step just so the hair lays flat against the doll's head and it's not puffy. And during the step, I'm just like, you know what? Let's stick the body back on because my head is nice and squishy. And then I finish the boil wash and voila, I'm gonna let her dry and prepare her for the next step, which is styling her gorgeous hair. Okay, quick Claudine update. Here she is. I let her hair dry and then I put her locks up in twists to kind of like separate it from her straight saran, just so I can style the saran easily without the twists getting in the way. Plus I'm kind of hoping that like once I undo these locks, they have a little bit of like a curled pattern to them, kind of like, Halle Bailey's Ariel does. So that's the plan. And then to get like a nice kind of like wavy curly texture in this straight saran, I was gonna put the hair up and braid it and then undo the braids so it kind of has a nice texture, but I've done that before and I didn't really like the texture I was getting, so I'm thinking today instead I'm gonna do like small twists on the saran and then boil wash it and then undo those twists, and hopefully the texture I get from that looks really nice and kind of wavy, and that's the plan. We'll see if it works out. And then after I do all of her hair, I'm probably going to spray her face with some Mr. Super Clear to try to like get rid of some of that shine, and then paint some of her accessories, and then Claudine should be done. So that's the game plan. I'm gonna twist her hair and then I'll be right back and show you what it looks like. So let me get started. All right, so I already twisted most of Claudine's hair off camera. Here you can see the progress. Now for this particular doll, I am planning on twisting so then I can untwist later so I have a nice wavy texture. That's not something I normally do. Normally when I twist hair, I keep it because I love the style. So this is a good reference if you've never twisted hair before. Whether you want to keep the twist in or not is totally up to you, but I'm going to take some hair and divide it into two sections, and then I'm taking both sections and twisting them in the same direction. So here on the left section, I'm twisting it left, and then on this right section of hair, I'm also going to twist it left, and I'm keeping that other section that I twisted kind of tucked away in my fingers right there, as you can see, and then you are going to wrap the hair in the opposite direction that you twist. So I twisted both strands left, I'm going to wrap the hair in a clockwise direction. And as I'm wrapping the hair, I'm still twisting it. So hopefully in this footage you can tell, like it's a wrap, I'm like wrapping it clockwise. And as I'm doing that, I'm still constantly twisting the hair left. So the twist is nice, sleek, taut. As you can see, I'm constantly readjusting Claudine. She's like trapped underneath my leg. This is really how I do doll hair though. It's not very glamorous, and that's why I don't like to film it often, because it's like, this is what it looks like. But hopefully this helps any of you out there who are trying to attempt to do twists on your doll. Here is Claudine, and now I'm going to set her aside and start working on Toralei. Alright, so last time I worked on Toralei, I only did that little section towards the back of her hair in orange, and then I decided, like, yeah, I wasn't vibing with it. Not for anything, like, major. I just was like, yeah, I don't know, this is kind of, we've seen this, right? Like, I've seen Toralei with orange hair. I have her Hisfits doll. Like, let's switch it up. So here I'm sort of just transitioning the orange. So I'm sort of skipping a couple plugs. That way when I transition that orange shade into that peach tone, it's not just, like, a harsh line, you know. I'm trying to think like a gradient almost. So I'm skipping a couple plugs, and here's a clip of me showing you how I section out my doll hair. I might have shown a clip of this earlier, I honestly can't remember, but this is just peach hair. I think it's the like Georgia peach one, so it's a little bit more orange toned, and it's not color blended or anything, so I'm just sectioning it out from my huge hank of hair. But this is about how much hair I decide to section, if you can see in the clip. Not too much, not too little. It's not a perfect science. But yeah, you want your doll to have a full, dense head of hair, but not so much hair that like it's obnoxious and ridiculous, but not too little hair that like it's almost like, why bother doing a reroot? You know, it really is, you need a little perfect medium, a little sweet spot. So hopefully that clip helped show you that process. Because it's a difficult process. I think it's difficult. Not difficult, but like, you know, it takes time to really nail it. Okay, hopefully that sounds better, I guess. Okay, and then the rest of the clips, I'm just rerooting with that peach hair, going up the hairline right here. I always like to start on the hairline and then fill in the back of the head. And then from this Georgia peach color, I eventually do transition to that other peach tone. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Maybe like Just Peachy, I want to say. That peach tone, it says Just Peachy, but like, it's blonde. It's just like a blonde tone. Like, it's got like very little orange in it, but that's okay. In the end, as I'm doing this project, I'm like, I'm just making a blonde Toralei, but like low key, it's kind of slay. So like, it's fine. It's fine. It's like peachy blonde, or maybe strawberry blonde, I guess is the correct term, I suppose. Okay, here I am now blending the Georgia peach hair with the Just Peachy hair. So like the more peach tone with the more blonde tone, because I like to create work for myself. Is this really necessary? Probably not. Honestly, in this clip, or like in this footage and in real life, I can barely tell the difference between like these peach tones. It's so subtle, and like I said, I could honestly just be making more work for myself, but like I like to go the extra mile and do things even if it's maybe not worth it in the end. Maybe you can tell the difference, maybe you can't, but I'm blending these colors together, and then I'm transitioning from just the pure Georgia peach color to this now new, more blondie peach tone is the idea, okay? So yeah, hopefully that adds any context to all of you here. As you can tell, it looks blonde. It just kind of looks blonde with a little bit of like an orange tint to it. But I'm very glad that I made the executive decision as, you know, owner and operator of Draculija over here. I just do my own little doll customs, but yeah, I'm glad I made that decision to, oh my God, I'm going off a tangent. I can't even think right now. I'm glad I made the decision, is what I'm trying to say, to switch her to blonde / peach rather than all orange, because I was not feeling it. And I really like this so far. And another thing I will say, as you can see here, I kept the orange underneath and I didn't acetone it off. It doesn't really bug me. That's probably the one thing that I like feel like I differ from so many other customizers, is people are always like wiping off the base paint, and then some people even paint on the color that they're rerooting with. I find that so unnecessary personally, but that's just me. You know, if you want to do that, all the power to you. All the power to you. Also, side note, I don't know if you can tell in some of these clips, but I, off camera, wiped off Toralei's default lips. Number one, it was so hard to wipe those lips off because of this new screening technique that they're using. And I like low-key was like scraping at her lips. Like if you look at her lips, if you catch a glimpse, I feel like I was like low-key like eroding the plastic, the vinyl on the face, on the lips. So kind of scary, but she looks fine in the end. I'll paint her lips later. You'll see. It all works out. Okay, super quick Toralei update. I was busy and practically finished the entire reroot. I'm like almost done. The back portion, or like all of this hair, is just those 2 shades of peach. So one's the more actual peachy tone, which is Georgia peach, and then the other peach tone I have, just peachy, is kind of just like a golden blonde, if I'm being honest. And then I did add some more orange at the very bottom right here. Like these bottom 2 rows are kind of orange, and then the rest are those peach tones. So pretty simple for the rest of Toralei's hair. But I was thinking about this reroot, and I don't want the center part to just be more peach. It just feels a little too plain for Toralei. Like it's fine, it's pretty, but I just want this to feel a little bit more exciting, edgy, just, I don't know, interesting. So I had this idea. These colors were kind of reminding me of like a Bengal tiger a little bit. So I was thinking of doing some black stripes in Toralei's center part to kind of evoke a tiger, if you will. So that's the game plan. I'm going to reincorporate some of this orange from the bottom into her center part with some black stripes and of course this peachy color, and hopefully all of that together will evoke a tiger. And I also had a plan where I wanted to have a hairstyle because her default doll just had like straight hair, center part, no hairstyle. But I wanted to feel kind of interesting. So I was looking through my collection for dolls as like inspo. Sometimes I do that where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do as far as hairstyles go. So I just like look upon previous things that I've done. And I stumbled across this Draculaura right here. This is the Ekin Getaway 2-pack Draculaura. And I just did a really simple braid right here in her center part that I then tied back behind her ear with some elastic. And then I tied it back a second time in the very back of her head. So it's kind of like hidden away. And it's just a nice way to like pull back some hair and help frame the face. And I'm thinking for the braid on Toralei, I want to have like the 3 segments of the braid be black, orange, and like peach toned. So it'll be like a tricolor braid. I think it'll look pretty and hopefully also nail home that it's meant to look like a tiger. I'm hoping this kind of looks like a tail maybe, you know, like a tiger tail. So that's my game plan. It's a little ambitious. I'm coming up with it last minute, but I think it'll look good and interesting. So join me as I finish this center part right here. Fingers crossed it looks good and not like shit, but I'm positive. I'm optimistic it'll look good. Okay, let's go. Okay, on to Toralei's center part. Now for Toralei, she does have like these rows that run parallel almost on both sides of her center part that are just sort of like extra dense rooting pattern essentially. And I think it's just kind of meant to like spruce up her hair and make it feel more full. And I am doing those rows the same time as the center part. So I'm doing those like outside rows, and then that's sort of how I'm designating my color placement. And then I'm rooting the center part. And it's sort of just like a standard center part procedure here, rooting it twice in the same plug and then brushing it to the right, brushing it to the left, and rinse and repeat. And I am trying to like come up with a fun blend of colors. Like I want it to be that standard peach tone with some like orange highlights and then black stripes. So that's sort of the pattern I'm going for. And I'm just doing it like off the cuff, what feels right. I'm not like, I don't have a design like that's really concrete in my mind. I am just trying to make it look natural, if that makes sense. So it looks good in the end, but it's really hard to like explain an exact system. It's just sort of like, you know, it's just using my mind and being creative with the color placement. I mean, it's 3 colors. It's not that difficult, but it's a fun thing to do for reroots like this, is just to sort of, you know, go off the cuff and play around and have fun with the colors. And I really am happy that I added the black to this. Like, it does feel like it comes out in left field a little bit because there's black nowhere else on this design, but I think she needed it. I really do think she needed it to kind of give Toralei that bit of edge that she has. Otherwise, with just like the peach and the orange tones, I don't know, she would have been maybe a little too soft and a little bit, you know, outside of her character, I suppose. And flash forward a bit, and here is Toralei all finished. Her center part is lovely. I think she turned out just perfectly. Like, I'm so glad I pivoted and came up with this new design for her hair. It just feels so like her. Like, it's a different take on Toralei, but a very welcome take in my opinion. And then it's on to sort of our standard stuff, you know, Fabri-Tac, glue, boil, wash, all of the stuff that you need to do after the reroot to prep for like the final product, you know, boring basic stuff, but you get it. And then I figured, you know, be a little opportunistic once again, stick the head back onto the body while the head is nice and squishy. And I was also here like, you know what, let me set Claudine as well. So I dipped her into some boiling hot water. It doesn't look boiling, it was boiling. But this is just to sort of help set the twist so I can get the maximum sort of texture and hold from them as possible for when I undo them. Okay, and then here is me with my protective gear for Mr. Super Clear. I am not messing around with this stuff. I do not want to get cancer and get sick from the fumes, so wear protective gear. I wasn't even having gloves, so I used a plastic bag as my gloves. And honestly, this layer of Mr. Super Clear was not thick enough. I had to go back and add more, but that's fine. And I added Mr. Super Clear because their faces are kind of shiny, and I wanted to try and mattify it. So that was the idea. But we're moving quick. We're now painting accessories, okay? I mixed up some black paint. I watered it down a little bit. And here I am painting Claudine's shoes. I feel like I haven't painted accessories in a while, but it is one of my favorite things to do in like my doll customs. And it's just an easy way to spruce up some items. Like these shoes, in my opinion, have pretty cool sculpts, but they're simple. They have no paint details. And, you know, this is a fun way for me as well to explore more of my like creative side that I don't really get to explore every day in my life, you know? Like as a kid in high school, whatever, like I loved art and I loved painting, and, you know, in my adult life, I don't really find a lot of time to pick up a paintbrush, you know? It's like, where would you find that time? But doll customizing allows for me to have like these different avenues of crafting and expressing my creativity that I love it so much. And now I'm on to Toralei's shoes. Honestly, these shoes I really wasn't a fan of initially, but by the end of this, I do grow really fond of them. I think I work some magic on these shoes in particular and really, really transform them. Even though this is like a fun creative outlet for me, I am trying to have some method to my madness. So, you know, I'm trying to paint everything black that I need to paint, so like I don't have to like pour more paint later. So, you know, I'm doing the black on the shoes. Now I'm grabbing this purse and painting the black on this handle. I'm painting some of the other accessories too, like the purses and the Stanley tumblers and stuff like that. But it's not equal treatment across the board. Like some things I paint, some things I don't. It just depends how I feel. And now I'm doing these sort of like, I don't know, what do you call this rope? I think it's like jute? Jute? Is that how you say it? It's like that rope texture for like the cat scratch tower. And, you know, pretty simple color choice, just kind of like a beige taupey color. And then for this portion of the shoe, I went with like a metallic red. Okay, that's already over. Next, it's metallic red. And now I'm on a Claudine's shoes. And I wanted to separate the like boot cover from the boot. And for the boot, I was kind of inspired by like Uggs, I suppose. So I'm kind of going with that tannish color. And I'm doing multiple layers, by the way. I'm like sometimes needing to build up 2 to 3 layers with this paint. Otherwise, it's going to be clumpy and gross. So that's another suggestion. And then I did some details on the tumbler. I'm coming back to these boots here, doing the fur trim in a light purple. Just, you know, whatever my mind can think of in the moment, that's what I go with. I did really like that light purple. Now onto Toralei's boots. I am painting the little kitty cats on the heels. I'm painting them orange to match Toralei, you know, original, but like, you know, sometimes the first thought is the best thought. So orange little cats on her shoes, and then doing some gold details on these accessories. I think both Toralei and Claudine had some gold details I wanted to get. Here it is on Claudine's boots. And I think on Toralei's shoes, she has like some cat-shaped buckles that I paint as well. Overall, I just really like painting doll accessories. Like, there's so many doll accessories in my collection that I could probably add detail to, but I wouldn't have enough time. Okay, on to Toralei's lips. Let's just get straight into it. If you look at the lips, I did attempt to do like watercolor pencils on them because I had applied Mr. Super Clear, but it was just not building up enough color. So I was like, F it, I'm going to paint them. And I was wanting to do like a red burgundy lip, but I could not mix a color that looked good I swear I was mixing so much paint and the colors looked like shit. So I was just like, let's just go back to this like mulberry purple color for Toralei. And here in this clip, it does look a little bit lighter. By the end, the final result is a little bit darker, I think. And, you know, it looks good. I like the lips. I even try to like get that little bit of a smirk she has, but I think I'm getting better at painting lips, so she looks good. And with Toralei's lips finished, the last step before the final reveal is undoing all of Claudeen's twists to prep her hair. So was I a little sad to undo these twists? Yeah, because they did look pretty good. But I am cutting off the elastic, and then I'm also trimming the ends with the straight hair because, you know, the goal of these twists was that I had some nice like wavy hair. So I don't want those straight ends. I'm just giving her a trim. It looks fine in the end. It's a little choppy, but like I don't even care. And once I undo all of these twists, they look like that, and they still don't look perfect, so I'm trying to figure out what to do. I decided to coat them all with some of my Vox water wax. This water wax product is a water-based product, not an oil-based product, so I feel safe using it on doll hair since doll hair is plastic. And then my decision was, you know what, I'm just going to brush out each twist and hope for the best. So I'm taking a pretty wide tooth comb right here and brushing out each twist one at a time. I'm also taking some more Vox water wax and sort of caressing it through the hair to try and just maintain that like wave pattern as best as I can. Now, could I have achieved this also doing braids? Probably, but I wanted to try it with twists. It was a little bit difficult with the twist to sort of like get the hair straight because, you know, it wants to twist upon itself. But with enough patience, I was able to get the hair to look pretty nice in the end, as you can see here. And ultimately, I am pretty satisfied with Claudeen's hair. It was a lot of labor, you know, twisting all this hair just to undo it for this texture. A lot of work, but I think it was worth it. And then I also undo her locks, and honestly, the locks really benefited from getting twisted because the texture they have now is gorgeous. I love, love, love the texture they have. So it all really did work out in the end. But that about does it for all of the customizing work in this video. It was a lot, but I'm very proud with how these two dolls turned out. Now let me prep them and get them ready for the final reveal. All right, we have reached the end. I'm all finished working on my Toralei and Claudeen customs. This was a fun double feature. Thank you all so much if you've made it this far. Please give the video a like if you've made it to the very end. I really, truly, deeply appreciate it. And now let's go over these gorgeous, gorgeous ghouls. So head to toe, you can see I made a lot of changes. Obviously, first and foremost, I rerooted them and gave them new hair. I think it is a total upgrade. And then I painted some of their accessories like their shoes, their Stanley tumblers. Well, Claudeen's not holding hers, but I did paint hers as well. It's not my favorite paint job. It's really simple, but I'll get into why she's not holding it later. And then for Toralei, I did paint her lips as well. Actually, I have a standard Toralei that I want to put side by side just so you can kind of see the difference of like before and after. I don't have a Claudeen, unfortunately, but here's Toralei, and you can see even from afar the difference in the lips and the hair especially. And some things I did to the fashion that I don't even think I talked about is I cut the like purple portion of the top off, and I also removed this black like trim with the fabric. I don't know, I just did not like this diagonal trim, and I decided to remove it. And then the purple top was just too much purple, I felt like, so I gave her her Fearbook Dolls top, and I just think the design is a lot more balanced now. And then like, I mean, obviously the lips I think just suit the style much better now from before. They are a bit of a deeper purple, but they're just more defined, you know, like these lips, they were very, I don't know, I wasn't liking them. And then maybe even here side by side, you can see some of the mattifying effects of the Mr. Super Clear that I placed over Toralei's face. It's very subtle, but I do feel like it helps to eliminate the shine, even if it's just like a subtle amount of shine elimination. And then even talking about Toralei, since, I mean, she's here side by side, I really prefer this like toned down sort of like peachy orange fantasy. Like I like the all orange, it's pretty, but this like peachy blonde with the black streaks is just so gorgeous. Let me like brush through and like fix the back right here, but you can see it's still kind of orange, you know, mainly peach. And I just love this color. It's so gorgeous. I did give her hair a bit of a trim. Right there, as you can see. And then that is how her hair looks. Let me do a little bit of hairography for all of you guys. There is her new hair. It's shiny, it's sleek, it's gorgeous. There it is. That's the colors. You can see in the back, we have the deeper orange in the back right there. And then you can see I tied the braid back there. I did this off camera, but there's her braid tied in the back. It's not the same fantasy, in my opinion, as like the Draculaura doll that I showed. And I think it's because that Draculaura has, well, like ears on the side of her face. This Toralei does not, but it still kind of tucks nicely back there, and it helps do what I wanted it to do, which is sort of like remove the hair out of Toralei's face. So it gets that job done. But yeah. There is Toralei. I'm so obsessed with her. She's a little washed out right now with my lights, so I apologize, but I still think she is just so gorgeous. Yeah, I'm trying to fix the lighting on her, but like she's still just like getting slightly washed out. But some other details, here's her lips up close if you want to see them. I did like 2 or 3 layers of like a glossy sealant on top, so they are very shiny and glossy. I love them. I think they turned out well. They're like a deep plum color. I painted some details on her Stanley cup right there, as you can see. Let me see. Yeah, I think it looks cute. I painted her nails. I even did like a little accent nail right there. It's like not wanting to show, but she has a manicure. Ta-da. And then I didn't do anything on her purse, but I did paint her shoes. Let's show the shoes. I spent so much time on these damn shoes. Okay, here they are with the little cats on the tower. And then I even did the bottoms. I didn't show this either, but there's gold on the bottom right there. Yeah, they look gorgeous. I like the little fishbone detail. And I did seal these off camera. I did like a glossy sealant on the black portion, and then all the other portions have like a satin varnish. And I like the black having the glossy effect. It just kind of gives it a nice pop. But there are Toralei's shoes. I think they turned out wonderfully. At first I thought her like bottom half was a little bit like naked, like she needed something else, like a sock or something. But honestly, I think she looks gorgeous as is, so I don't even care. That is Miss Toralei. Now on to Claudine. Okay, Claudine, as you know, I was trying to go for like a Halle Bailey Ariel fantasy, and I do think I achieved it pretty well. I think her locks are like not the right color, but that's okay. I still really adore her. Here she is. Now, I didn't have to paint her lips. I actually really liked her lips as is. The only thing I did off camera was I just slightly cleaned up the like bottom lip. I acetoned a little bit off, if you can tell, just to kind of help define the lips a little bit. But there she is. And then here's a bit of a 360 for her hair with the locks. You can see they are gorgeous. I just love these locks, and it's super full coverage. Like you can see, look at that. No bald spots like I was worried about. But there she is. I love her hair. I love her hair so much. And honestly, these 2 dolls are a pretty good example of like how when you're doing creative custom projects like this, you know, can go in many directions. With Claudine, I sort of accomplished what I envisioned. With Toralei, I like pivoted and came up with something that was entirely opposite of like what I started off with. But sometimes that's the fun part, is like, you know, sometimes plans go perfectly and you get a doll like this. Sometimes you pivot and you get a doll like that. So I like these 2. They pair really, really well together. And some other details, I painted the like handle gold. It's pretty basic. And then here are her shoes. I really wanted to separate like the boot cover from like the main boot portion. So I feel like this does a good job of really sort of showing what I think the sculpt was trying to show. And then the bottoms are just black. I felt like it made sense for Claudine. And if you saw initially, I did have her wearing those like leg warmers, the fabric leg warmers from Sculptimate Secrets, the Monster Mysteries ones. But I think these shoes can stand on their own now, just like with a little bit of extra paint detail. And with Claudine, I did something that I didn't do with Toralei, which is utilize her base plastic color. Like her shoes were this purple, and I thought the purple was fine. So why bother painting if I don't have to, if I can just utilize this base color of her shoe and just bring out the details that were already hidden. So there is Claudine's shoes, and there is Claudine once more. Oh, I did paint her accessories a different shade of gold as well. But One thing to note for this doll is I lost her hands. I lost one of the hands. So I had to swap and use the Buried Secrets hands, which is why her hand is on her hip, because her hand is crooked, as you can tell. And that's also why I didn't paint her nails. So once I find her other hand, it's like gotta be somewhere around me. I will give it back and swap it out and like let her hold her Stanley tumbler. But in the meantime, she just kind of, this is the pose she's rocking. It's fine, it's cute, it's sassy, but I love her hair. I don't know if the twists were necessary to get this type of like wavy texture. I probably could have done something else, but like, it was fun, it was a journey, it was something new, and honestly, it is kind of nice because I just felt like the locks, if they were just like, you know, over top straight hair, it just wouldn't feel right. I was really trying to achieve, like I said, that fantasy of Ariel, and I think I did it. Let me know what you think down below in the comments of both of my customs that I did today. I really like playing with my dolls like this, where I'm just sort of enhancing the base doll and just putting my own little twist on it, where like these dolls can display in my collection and they still feel like Toralei, they still feel like Claudine, but you know, they're still special and custom. Like they're not so far deviated. I just yanked her head. They're not so far deviated that they feel like entirely new characters, but they have enough about them that feels different and fresh and fun. So that was my goal. I think I achieved it, but let me know. If you want to be brutally honest and tell me you hate them, that's cool too. But you know, I love to comment with all of you and chat down below. And that is all I have to share in today's video. This is a bit of a long one because it was a double feature, but I was really focused and motivated. Like I've been so distracted these past like 3 weeks. I've done nothing else. Like I was wanting to film other videos. Like I wanted to do some news videos and like some other unboxings, but I was really honed in on these two gorgeous schools right here and they took all my attention. And hopefully this video justifies that, because I have been on a dry spell as far as uploading videos go. But you know, I try not to get caught up in that. As like someone who makes videos, for me this is just a fun aspect of like my doll collecting hobby, and being able to post on YouTube is an extension of that. This isn't, you know, meant to be like anything else beyond that for me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe. My name is Eli. This is my channel, Draculasia, and I'll catch all of you gorgeous people in the next one. Okay, goodbye.